It is my honor and privilege to invite the Director of Special Programs here at the Association of African Universities to deliver the opening remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Sylvia Mkandariri.
Distinguished guests, esteemed university leaders, representatives of the government, development institutions, members of the diaspora, colleagues from across the higher education community, dear students, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Secretary General of the Association of African Universities, Professor Olushola Oyewole, it is with great honor and deep optimism that I welcome you all to the third edition of the African Academic Heritage Fair. This event is convened by the Association of African Universities and powered by AAU TV, its media and broadcasting wing dedicated to amplifying African higher education research and continental development issues. Today, as we commemorate African Day and reflect the Africa we want, we are reminded of our continent's future, and that it will not only be shaped by its natural resources, but the ideas that we nurture, the knowledge that we generate, and partnerships we build across borders and institutions and generations. This year's African Union theme, assuring sustainable water availability and safe sanitation systems to achieve the goals of Agenda 2063, speaks directly to one of our most urgent development challenges of our time. Across Africa, communities continue to face water insecurity, scarcity, climate change, environmental degradation, rapid urbanization, and inadequate sanitation. These are not merely environmental issues. These are issues of public health, food security, education, human dignity, and ultimately, the sustainability of Africans' development. Yet within these challenges lies a powerful opportunity. Africa universities are no longer peripheral observers of development. They are active laboratories for transformation, places where curiosity meets courage, where indigenous, grounded insight meets global ambition. Our institutions produce groundbreaking research, develop locally relevant innovation, preserve indigenous knowledge, and train the next generation of scientists, engineers, policymakers, and entrepreneurship. What has been often missing is a strong bridge between knowledge and implementation, between research and policy, between innovation and communities, and between Africa, solutions, and the systems that are needed to scale them. The Africa Academic Heritage Fair was established at least to close this gap. It is a platform where African scholarship is elevated, where student voices are amplified, and where collaboration becomes foundation of sustainable progress. Most importantly, it is a space where universities, policymakers, development partners, innovators, industry players, and young people come together to examine how knowledge born of African realities can be meaningfully shape Africans' development trajectory. In today's program, therefore, it is designed intentionally not only to stimulate the dialogue, but also to inspire action. As we engage in today's dialogue, innovation showcases and cultural exchanges, I encourage all of us to move beyond the conversation, and we should be looking towards actionable commitments. Let's ask ourselves difficult questions. How can universities become stronger drivers of climate resilience and sustainable development? How can we ensure that African research is increasingly influencing policy at national, regional, and international levels? How can industry and the private sector become more effective partners for sustainability? How can we strengthen the African diaspora as strategic partners in knowledge exchange, mentorship, and global collaboration? And finally, how do we empower our young people, not merely as beneficiaries, but also as co-creators of the systems, policies, and technologies that will define the next chapter of our continent's story? The answers to these questions will significantly shape the trajectory of the achievement of Agenda 2063 and also the future we envision for our continent. To our students, young innovators, here and connected online, Africa needs your creativity, your courage, your determination. Your ideas matter, your voices matter. Your generation will play a defining role in safeguarding Africa's future. Let's not wait to get permission to lead. The problems are very urgent. The tools are in our hands. The continent is watching with great expectation. And to our partners, policymakers, development stakeholders, collaboration is no longer optional. The scale and complexity of Africa's water and sanitation challenges demand integrated, interdisciplinary, and multi-stakeholder responses. These responses should be rooted in African realities and shaped by Africans' own solution. So let's leave here after this gathering not only inspired, but also committed to stronger collective action. As the Association of African Universities, we remain committed to strengthening higher education as a strategic force for the continental transformation. Over the years, the Association of African Universities has implemented African Centers of Excellence for Development Impact. And we have close to 5 centers that were specifically targeted to support provision of water technologies, providing sanitation for communities across the West African region. This has been successfully implemented in Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, Benin. So we have graduates that have graduated in those countries, and they are in the pipeline to solve some of these challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, history will not only remember the challenges we face, it will remember how we chose to go about them. So today, we choose dialogue over silence, innovation over inertia, collaboration over competition, and African solutions born of African realities for Africa's future. This is the work that we have at hand, and this is our moment, and this is the Africa we want, not a distant aspiration, but a daily act of building together. On behalf of the Association of African Universities, it is my honor to declare the African Academic Heritage Fair 2026 officially open. I thank you all for coming.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mkandarire. Please give it up for her. Thank you very much, Doc. And during Doc's speech, I couldn't help but notice something that she said. She says, history will not remember the challenges that we face as Africa. However, it would rather remember what we chose to do about those challenges. And so today, we should choose dialogue over silence. We should choose innovation over inertia. We should choose collaboration over competition, and together solve Africa's problems. That was such a timely and powerful speech. Thank you very much, Doc. Now, next on our agenda, we will take our very first keynote speech from Professor Kehinde O. Ogunjobi. He is the IWM country representative for Ghana, West and Central Africa. We have Prof here. Please give it up for Prof as he mounts the stage. Thank you very much.
Dear Director, distinguished academics here present, students of AAU. I bring greetings also from the International Water Management Institute, based here in Accra, Ghana. It's our pleasure to be here today to participate in this third African Academic Heritage Fair 2026. We are so delighted as an institution to partner with AAU in finding solutions to the problem of water, sanitation, and hygiene. I want to inform you that IMI, as we are so called, we are one of the CGIAR institutions based here in Accra. And the office in Accra is a regional center for the International Water Management Institute, which covers for West and Central Africa. We have carried out a number of research works into problems affecting water resource management, and also in issues of agricultural irrigation practices. Our vision in IMI is to get a secure water world, and I think it's at this moment that it's good that we are partnering with AAU on this very, very important topic of water and sanitation in Africa. Our thematics in IMI varies from, agri-food systems, where we look into various agricultural irrigation practices and biodiversity, climate change, early warning system, early anticipatory systems, and all these compounding events that affect water resource management. We are also very strong in of course, governance and policies, which we make sure that all our results in IMI are also available to end users, in using for policy making and projection into the future. IMI is also into, of course, gender and inclusion, which is another major thematics in IMI. So with all these, we partner together with various research institutions in Africa in providing solutions to water issues. So it's our pleasure to be here this morning representing IMI and also partnering with AAU on this special occasion. I have a presentation which will be coming up. Can I take that now, Isabella? I have titled my presentation this morning as Water Security and Safe Sanitation. Actually, that is the title that I'm being given by the organizer to speak on. Foundation for Human Capacity and Climate Resilient Development in Africa. Next slide. My presentation is in the following overview as indicated on the screen. Next slide. As a kind of a baseline information, what is the progress being made? At what stage are we in terms of baseline? 1 in 4 out of the 2.1 billion people living globally on Earth still lack safely managed drinking water. 779 million people are without basic sanitation in Africa. 354 million people globally continue to practice open defecation, and 19 out of 22 African states suffers from water security. And I'm very happy that the representative from the AU is here with us this morning. In terms of trends, the sub-Saharan Africa lifted safely managed drinking water from 27% in 2015 to about 33% in 2024. However, that lifting is just about how many? About 6%. It's still the slowest progress made in any region. West and Central Africa is the only sub-region where the absolute number practicing open defecation is rising. At the current pace, the continent would miss the Sustainable Development Goal number 6 by this decade, as only 31% of sub-Saharan Africa has safely managed water. Healthcare acquired infection linked with poor wash cost sub-Saharan Africa about 8.4 billion USD annually, according to the World Bank and Water Aid 2024. Women are 4 times more likely to collect water, and that in 2 out of every 3 households globally, the burden falls on our girls and our women. In the sub-Saharan Africa, there are still gaps that still remain very structural, which we need to look at. And next slide, please. Next slide. And this slide on the screen shows the percentage population for safe drinking water to sanitation to basic hygiene. What is the insight here? The insight is that sanitation still lags behind by 9 points, as you have seen there, between drinking water and safely managed sanitation practices. Hygiene gains driven largely by COVID-19 investment, but the sustainability is absolutely uncertain. Rural coverage is improving fast in absolute terms, but inadequate in widening. Disaggregated data is still very patchy, as seen in comparing the result of 2015 to 2024. Next slide. What is the current state of environment in Africa? I did hear Madam Director mention about the issue of climate change. Next slide will show us the current state. Next slide, please. Will show us the current state of the atmosphere in Africa. There has been rapid warming, as you have known, and of course, huge heat stress. African warming is at the rate of plus 0.3% at 3 degrees Celsius per decade, from the record of 1991 to 2023. Sahel temperatures are increasing up to 0.2 to 0.8 degrees Celsius in recent decade, according to Rigard et al. 2016. Heat waves and warm night intensifies since the 1980s. Inland temperature in cities of Mali and Burkina Faso often exceed 45 degrees Celsius. In terms of increasing rainfall variability, monsoon instability is driven by ENSO. There has been delay onset and early cessation. Long dry spell and more erratic and intense rainfall is being experienced. This has led to flood magnitude increases from 94% to about 96% of stations in near future within the continent. Some locations may see flood increase for more than 45%, according to Diop et al. 2025. Drought risk remain high due to short extreme rain and long dry spells, according to Tefa et al. 2025. The message here is that West Africa is experiencing rapid warming, unstable monsoon dynamics, intensifying heat waves, erratic rainfall, and increasing hydroclimatic extremes threatening water agriculture ecosystem, infrastructure, and of course, livelihood. Next slide. In terms of projection, IMI scientists we projected into the year 2100. What did we find out? We find out that, of course, in the Sahel, coastal, and the average of West Africa, temperatures continue to increase, and this has its own impact on water availability. Rising temperature of plus 0.5 to plus 7 degrees in the Sahel, 0.5 degrees Celsius to 5 degrees Celsius along the coast, and positive 0.5 to 6 degrees Celsius overall in West Africa under the RCP 8.5 by 2100. What is this implication? Implication means, of course, stress on water availability, rainfall uncertainty, water stress and droughts, of course, increasing crop failure risk, and then warm, humid condition that favors pest and disease pressure. Next slide. This is according to Sela et al. 2016. The trends in water security and safe sanitation in Africa and indeed in West Africa. Next slide. The current trend is that over 400 million Africans lack safely managed drinking water. In West Africa, reliance on rain-fed agriculture and limited storage increase vulnerability to drought and flood. Safely managed sanitation access remain critically low in our region, especially in rural and peri-urban area, contributing, of course, to diseases, environmental degradation, and lost productivity. African temperature is rising, like I said, at about 0.3 on the average per decade, increasing evaporation, increasing water stress and demand for household agriculture and energy practices. This has also created more droughts, reduced river flow, groundwater recharge, and reservoir storage, drive resilience in unsafe sources, and weaken sanitation systems. We continue to experience more flood that leads to contaminated water sources and damaged water and sanitation infrastructure, increase waterborne diseases, and disrupt services, especially, of course, in urban and peri-urban areas. Of course, this growing pressure on water system is as a result of population growth, urbanization, irrigation expansion, energy demand, and ecosystem degradation intensify the water stress, as I've said. Demand is rising faster by the year, overstretching infrastructure and increasing vulnerability. Of course, drinking water access rate in West Africa continue to depreciate. Only 25% of population have access to drinking water, and sanitation access in West Africa remains at 27%, according to World Health Organization and UNICEF report of 2022. What is the key message on this slide? The key message says that millions in Africa still lacks what? We lack safe water and sanitation. Climate change is increasing drought, flood, and heat stress, worsening the risk of the million that lacks safe drinking water. Resilient water management and strong governance are essential for water security and health for the future. We must target investment today to protect our communities and drive sustainable development. Next slide, please. The impact of Galamsey, which we know very much in Ghana, is also cannot be, overemphasized. Illegal mining is severely degrading Ghana's water resources, sanitation, and public health. Water pollution is being experienced as our rivers are majorly contaminated, often with mercury, with cyanide, and sediments. According to Ghana Water Resource Commission of 2020, in 2021 report, turbidity up to 14,000 NTU, which is far above the 2,000 NTU, are being treated by the Ghana Water Resource Commission. This is just huge. And just imagine that our safe drinking water should be less than 1 NTU. 1. And we are having turbidity of over 14,000 in some river beds in Ghana due to illegal gold mine. These are verifiable facts that you can check. 50% of treated water is lost due to extreme contamination. What does this lead to? It leads to serious stress on sanitation and the wash degradation. Galamsey camps lack proper sanitation, waste disposal, and safe drinking water. Evacuation pits and stagnant pool increase risk of typhoid, cholera, and other waterborne diseases, isn't it? Pollution and river obstruction worsen flooding, drainage failure, and invariably erosion. What does this lead to? It leads to poor public health and food security risk. Exposure to mercury and cyanide harms neurological, kidney, liver, and of course, maternal and infant health. And of course, this also affects infrastructure. What does this mean? The key message is that Galamsey is degrading water, Ghana's water and sanitation systems, threatening public health, food security, ecosystem, and invariably human livelihood. The way forward, next slide. For action, for evidence and action, we need to develop a way forward in Africa, and we have identified 6 priority pathways to accelerate impact. Number 1 is climate resilient wash infrastructure, integrated water resource management, facial sludge and sanitation service chain, early warning and flood risk monitoring. Blended finance for SDG 6 must be achieved, and local capacity and gender inclusive governance. For plans to deliver, we need to treat WASH, which is water, sanitation, and hygiene. We need to treat it as an emergency. Treat WASH as climate adaptation infrastructure, eligible for climate finance. We must bundle hard infrastructure with sanitation service chain and behavioral change. We must embed monitoring, evaluation, and learning from day one in all our governance policy in West and indeed in the entire continent, Africa. Next slide, please. The strategic framework for climate resilient water security in Africa entails the 6 blocks, the 4 blocks which I have there, is to protect, to prepare, to provide, and also to partner. I repeat that the framework should be to protect. We must safeguard our water resource ecosystem and infrastructure. We must be prepared. In preparation, we should have enough very stable and efficient early warning system, early anticipatory action for risk reduction and also for quick response. We must provide universal, equitable, safe water and sanitation access to our population. And indeed, we must partner finance, innovation, governance, and multi-stakeholder action. This will lead to a climate resilient water security for all. Next slide. A call for action for African water security future will involve the 4 points that I've identified. Number 1 is to scale finance. Number 2, climate-proof wash infrastructure, strengthen data and governance, and then accelerate innovation. Africa must mobilize a minimum of 114 billion US dollars per year through blended finance, climate fund, sovereign green bonds to prioritize our access to proper sanitation and good access to water. We must have, like I said, climate-proof wash infrastructure. Mandate climate risk assessment for all wash infrastructure and no new investment without resilience standard. We must accelerate digital water intelligence, nature-based solution, and decentralized sanitation technologies at national scales. Next slide. I think I have one more slide or two to go. Now, what are we doing as a research institution at the International Water Management Institute, IMI? The next slide, please. The next slide is showing where IMI has added value into improving water and sanitation in the region. Number one, IMI has a drought and flood forecasting tool deployed with partnership with National Hydromet Agency. We have developed what we call the digital twin for basin, which is a real-time water resource modeling and scenario analysis. We have carried out restoration and remediation of the Galamsey affected sites in Makranso, I guess I pronounced it very well, Makranso in Ashanti region of Ghana. Solar irrigation bundles that strengthen smallholder climate resilience farming practice has been practiced and adopted both on pilot and on scale. Managed aquifer recharge protocol for the Sahelian and Savannah aquifers have been developed by IMI, and we have developed several policy briefs informing national NDCs, National Action Plan, and the SDG 6 reviews. Various projects that are ongoing in IMI includes the ICRA project, the AWARE project, the Digital Twin project, the Rewater project. These are 4 major projects that you can find more information on our webpage. We have reached more than 15 African countries with IMI projects. We have over 40 national partners and ministry engagement, and we have touched more than 1.2 million farmers in benefiting from climate-smart agriculture and irrigation practices. In conclusion, African water future can and must be secured if the world acts now, and we have to act together. Africa has the knowledge, the framework, and partner to achieve this. What is needed now is the political will and the resource that commensurate with the scale of the crisis that we are in. Africa can leapfrog carbon-intensive water infrastructure by deploying digital, decentralized, and nature-based solutions right from now, from the onset. Evidence-based institutions like IMI and indeed Association of African Universities, AAU, must anchor government, market, and civil society's coalition, translating data into decisive and equitable action. Water security, I said, is not a sectoral goal. It is a foundation of African human capital building. It is a foundation for African food security and climate resilient future. It's my pleasure at this moment, next slide, to thank you very much for listening, that working together across institutions, communities, and sector can turn climate challenges into opportunities. No one must be left behind. We must collaborate, we must innovate, and we must act now. Thank you so very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Ogunjobi, for this very timely speech. Now we'll take another speech from Professor Ezra Aharoni. He is the founder and chairman, Center for Global Africa. He's joining us virtually. So over to you, team.
I want to first say good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all the distinguished guests and the leaders who are here, all protocol observed. I want to really commend AAU TV and all the organizers for putting this great conference on and inviting us to Center for Global Africa. And we're very pleased to be here, even though it's remote, and very pleased to be one of the sponsors of this event. Let me begin by saying that Africa's water future and the problems Africa faces will not solely be solved by government ministries. So it's great to see so many of you here today who will ultimately become part of that process, as I'm sure those who are in the audience and those who are online are committed in some way to helping address these complexities. At the Center for Global Africa, we have a great partnership with AAU, and I want to bring greetings to from all of our members to those of you at AAU and all of the great partners who support this initiative. And I want to say that Africa's water challenges are not just Africa's alone, but they intersect with the concerns of the diaspora and entities like the Center for Global Africa. And we all see our part in the collective responsibilities to address these issues. Today, two of our members will present on topics. I'm pleased to say that Kenneth Duncan, Honorable Kenneth Duncan, who is a development consultant and a former state representative from Illinois, will be here to talk about water reclamation. And we have Professor Jeffrey Richardson from the University of Delaware also with us. And their participation reflects the CGA's commitment to not merely conversation, but to practical engagement, interdisciplinary collaboration, and institutional expertise in areas of implementation that the Center for Global Africa looks to contribute through partnerships, consulting, and academic programming and content. I don't want to belabor the point, but I'm sure it's going to be stated over and over, the different statistical things that Africa faces, the data points that everyone is familiar with. But one of the things that I do want to state is that there are at least five factors that relate to water security, water sustainability, water safety, that the Center for Global Africa and our diaspora network are looking to ensure that we consider, and these are things that we look forward to working with AAU to address. One is effective governance, planning, and management, as well as oversight. Two, effective assessments, policy making, and policy enforcement. Three, effective education and innovation that's tied to human capital responsiveness and preparedness. Four, the requisite investments in infrastructure, technology, and models that will originate and yield returns that are viable in being able to apply these things. And that's one of the areas that my associate, Honorable Ken Duncan, will address. And fifth, but not least in any way, there must be pre-understandings about how and why water security, sanitation, and sustainability are, in essence, 21st century issues of African sovereignty. And I think that's important to stress, because it's not merely about water, it's not merely about systems, but ultimately it's about sovereignty. And these are issues that will either severely weaken or substantially strengthen Africa in today's globally competitive world. So I know that when I was growing up, and I'm here in the USA in Delaware, but as kids, we were always taught not to waste water. But that was basically from the standpoint of keeping your water bill or your utility bills low. It wasn't about survival. It wasn't about issues of sovereignty, because the same remains true in Africa today. Don't waste water, but it hinges to the fact that there must become a philosophy, a governing philosophy and disciplines that surround water that everyone should have in common in terms of the way we think and understand this resource. And even when you examine world history, you'll see that the rise of great civilizations have always coincided with great water sources. So civilizations in the quest to become great always look for water sources, how to use water, how to conserve water. Uh, Water becomes a great resource that fuels development. So conversely, history also shows that when societies decline, that there can be declines also in water systems, and water systems fail. So you'll find that across Africa, from century to century, when Africa had great empires, that they all mastered not just political organization, but environmental adaptation and water stewardship. It's consistent throughout history. So in many ways, this forum today is not just about water, it's about being able to reclaim those sovereign traditions of sustainability, innovation, stewardship that have always existed in African civilizations. Today, we're challenged a bit more so because of climate change. So we have to make these adaptations in terms of 21st century ways to address these problems. The concept note correctly highlights the importance of universities as strategic development actors and not just institutions that issue degrees. And this distinction is important because students must be prepared to address these challenges. And to do so, we must rethink curricula. And universities must become solution centers. Universities must become technology and innovation incubators. And all of this adds up to universities becoming premier research institutions and engines of implementations of new knowledge, new approaches, new systems. This is where, at the Center for Global Africa, we feel we can add great strategic value, since we don't want to duplicate what universities are already doing. We want to help bridge Africa to the diaspora and build other bridges, build bridges for universities to industries, as well as policies to implementation, and transform research, translate it into investments so that the necessary infrastructures can, in fact, be originated. And I use the term originated because we can't think of the problem in conventional ways or in ways that is being implemented in perhaps other parts of the world. We can borrow from these models, but we have to look at the Pan-African nature of the way in which Africa needs to cooperate. So critically important to all of these things, and the thread that brings them all together is that these approaches that I'm speaking about, these solutions, they must be African owned and African applied. Another lesson in worldwide history, you'll find that imported solutions or the external ways in which a group or people or a nation attempt to adapt things without local ownership or national ownership, they rarely last because there becomes a lopsided relationship in the way the practices and the systems are put in place. So there has to be national, local ownership and application. And I know that the leadership of AAU understands these realities and demands because in our discussions, these are things that have always been core commonalities to why we have this great partnership with AAU. So we stand with AAU to organize diaspora capabilities to assist with these objectives that include mobilizing resources, enlarging visibility and awareness, and securing technical partnership. And AAU deserves a lot of credit for organizing this gathering because it's intentionally structured around action, youth engagement, innovative ideas, and policy content. So this is certainly the correct course of pursuit for water solutions that are and will be foundational to both the Africa we want as well as the diaspora or the sixth region that we want. So both the inherent challenges and the immense opportunities are clearly before us. So in closing, I want to say in a metaphorical way that water really teaches us something profoundly related to Pan-Africanism itself, as well as the aspirations of Agenda 2063 and the importance of Africa Day. And what I mean by that in terms of water, if you look at a river or any body of water, they do not stop or their boundaries do not cease because of man-made borders. Water flows continuously and interconnectedly regardless of where nations may draw boundaries. So we should regard our Africa diaspora links and partnerships to address water challenges and opportunities with the same sense of continuity and interconnectedness, the same nature of peoplehood that Agenda 2063 and Pan-Africanism promotes, and create these kinds of solidified partnerships so that the Africa we want can certainly become materialized, and that being in conjunction with working with credible sixth region partners as the Center for Global Africa looks to ensure. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Prof. Aharoni.